So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to the first morning session of this second decarbXpo day. And I'm happy that so many of you are interested in how many contributions startups give to the decarbonization of different industry, what role startups play in the decarbonization of different industry and sectors. And we are happy to bring 6 very interesting startups to you to introduce what their solution, what their contribution towards decarbonization to different industries will be. But first of all, let me introduce H2UB. H2UB is a partner organization of decarbXpo, of course for the first time, but we believe that this format of having a gathering of different industries and sectors that are interested in decarbonization, that need to decarbonize their production, their services, their products, so that we believe that we have a lot of things in common. We as an H2UB covering the startup hydroverse of European hydrogen startups. So H2UB is the only European platform and network of European hydrogen startups, founded a year ago in October 21, and we are a platform, as I said, for European hydrogen startup, co-funded by the German federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia and funded by several very interesting companies and industries. Many of our partners are here today. I will show them later. And all those companies and the German government found or think that it is very important to integrate innovation and startups into the innovative ecosystem to decarbonize and defossilize industry and sectors. So the objectives of our network are first to increase the number of hydrogen startups in Europe. Throughout Europe at the moment we are 160 startups dealing with hydrogen. This is an enormously small amount of startups compared to other sectors of startup businesses like digitalization, where you, alone in Düsseldorf, it's 3 times the number of 160. And so we have very few startups in Europe. They are decentralized. They are in different states, in different countries, at different locations and universities. So it's really necessary to have a network to bring them together, to exchange views, and to be more visible. So increase the number of startups by finding them, by contacting them, and by giving impulses to scientific institutions, to companies to create and build new startups. And it's not only about the number, of course, it's about the quality of startups. So H2UB is not only gathering the startups together in a network, but offering services to support the startups, to guide them, to bring them together with contacts in industries and corporations, and give them several services, so as to be part of a joint booth at trade fairs, as you can see in the backwards, where we joined our 6 startups from Europe. We want to create opportunity to cooperate and to communicate. So we have a lot of formats, events, digital and live, where we bring together the startups and the companies and interested parties also from science. And this not only in Europe, but all over the world. So we build strong relationships with these partners. The partner companies that are supporting us are not only giving some financial support, they're bringing their knowledge, they're bringing their own network, they're bringing in their mentoring skills and really supporting the startups they are dealing with. So this is a very and highly effective network. And this is the reason I explained why we are here at decarbXpo today and tomorrow. We are watching cross-industry innovation cross-sector innovation as well. As you all know, hydrogen is not a sector, hydrogen is not an industry. We are targeting several industries, from highly energy consuming industries to mobility to other sectors, to logistics. So it's not only about innovation and technology in different sectors, it's also about closing the gap between sectors and industry. And this is, for example, and we'll get some examples later, why digital startups also play a very important role in the hydrogen innovation ecosystem. So what is needed in the hydrogen world, what is needed in decarbonization and defossilization of industries and sectors is speed and is a market ramp up. And this is why we have to consider the whole value chain when it comes to hydrogen, because in order to use hydrogen in different industries, you of course need a lot of hydrogen at your convenience to do it. So when we see here in Germany, in North Rhine-Westphalia, ThyssenKrupp dealing with green steel production, it is a huge amount of green hydrogen they need for this production. So from the production side of hydrogen, from the distribution side of hydrogen, from the storage part, from the use in different industries and sector, the whole value chain is being watched by us, and the startups we are gathering in our networks, and many of the startups we brought today represent several sectors and parts of this value chain. So it's very interesting to see it's not a single niche of technology and innovation where the startups are active, but it's a broad approach towards the whole value chain. And another thing is that we see a lot of pilot projects dealing with hydrogen at the moment, and there's a great necessity of bringing those pilot projects towards bigger ecosystems. It's great to have pilot projects where you have a small electrolyzer, you have a source of renewable energy, you have a source of, or you have a use case for it, but it's of course not enough. We need broader ecosystems, we need a connection and combination of pilot projects. So this is really important to see not only single projects, but a whole value chain and a whole ecosystem. So we have to connect these parts of the value chain, not only physical. It is important to connect pilot projects physical, because in the end you need a physical infrastructure to combine hydrogen projects. But it's also important to combine them digitally by achieving knowledge, by gathering data on what's necessary in order to make investment decisions, where to put your facility, where to build up your production, and how to use it, and who needs what kind of amount of hydrogen. So we cooperate across industries and sector, as I said, and the reason why we need to cooperate is that the hydrogen ramp up, the hydrogen market needs a lot of investment and huge sums of investment. So it's really good to have a good base for making decisions where to put your investments and where to go first and what is needed in order to achieve your goals. In all these cases, startups can make a big contribution. It's not the small number of startups that everybody thinks like, well, what good can this do? It's really important to integrate the innovative power, the out-of-the-box thinking, the approaches of startups in order to kind of refresh the approach of the transition of many industries, of substituting fossil energy sources by hydrogen and making new things happen. So startups are really a very important part. And we are, as the European hub for the hydrogen startups, acting as a matchmaker for, yes, there it is. We are acting as a matchmaker for the startups. We have our own startup accelerating program, H2UB Sprint. The second batch is on the way now, and we have already 8 interesting hydrogen startups in our programs. We build a lab net, a so-called hydrogen lab net, because many of the startups need facilities to test their ideas, to build their ideas, facilities where they have hydrogen at a certain amount at their hands. So it is really a necessity to have a network of opportunities where also startups that are not connected to a university, startups that are not connected to research institutions can have access to labs and testing and makerspace facilities, which is very important. Another thing is that H2UB is also a think tank. We are dealing with several parts of the hydrogen value chain by giving some input, by giving some impulses, and of course by gathering information. And information is really crucial because this is not a regional thing. Hydrogen is not a North Rhine-Westphalic or German or European thing. It's a global approach. Globally, you have a lot of information, and what's really important for startups, we try to put together in our think tank projects. So by doing all this, we are an ecosystem builder, and last but not least, we of course are a service organization for startups and for those companies and industries and partners who are interested in working together with the startups, interested in getting to know what startups are working on in the hydrogen world. So we have a holistic approach to support the startups we are working with. As I said, the hub idea is not only about having a network for startup, it's also about integrating interested corporates in our network, integrating of course the startups, and combining all this with the huge knowledge and the huge opportunities that R&D facilities and universities, research institutions are offering when it comes to hydrogen solutions. Many of the research ideas are not yet at a point where they even are ready to become a startup or ready to become a company, because as you all know, hydrogen hasn't been a market for a very long time. There had been a very specific market for the chemical industry, but in general, a hydrogen market is not yet there. So in order to encourage people who are dealing with very interesting ideas and yet not convinced that their idea is suitable for dealing with it economically, having a startup, creating your own company and doing it because there will be a customer, there will be a market for it. We want to encourage them, and therefore it's very important to work together with a research institution as well, because there's a huge potential for innovation. Let me just repeat, the role of startups, it's really necessary, and this is why many companies already in our network and other companies not yet in our network are invited to have a look at what startups can do for them. It is a kind of having an external innovation team. It is a kind of out-of-the-box thinking without the heritage that many industries and customers and companies have when they have to think about decarbonization. Consider you have a big corporation, a big corporate needing to transform the core business like steel industry or glass industry or cement industry. It's not necessarily so that they can do it by themselves. So sometimes they need an input from the outside, and sometimes it's the best way to have a fresh company, a young company, a talented company focusing on a special issue of your problem and not having to take care of all the heritage, all the rucksack you carry with your legacy and anything. So be brave and open yourself up, I tell always the companies, and work together with startups and see what potential they can give in your innovation process. So to put it in a nutshell, what we are doing for the startups, I said incubation and acceleration is an important point, and this of course leads to the financial opportunities, financial partners that startups of course need. You have to be visible, you have to be there when investors, and there's a huge amount of investments around for green tech, for green innovation, for decarbonized technologies, but many of the big VCs, many of the big financing partners do not know where to look for it. As I said, we have 160 European startups dealing with hydrogen. Where to go and find them? You can go to every university, you can go to every small town from Finland to Portugal, but we are offering the opportunity, find them in our network, come to our network, and we can even watch together or explore together where the startups could be. The startups themselves get them comprehensive support from us. As I said, not only from us, we are really, as you can see with me, we are really highly motivated in this topic, but all the knowledge we need comes from the industrial partners, the research partners, the corporate partners, because not a single hydrogen project is alike. We have a lot of interesting approaches, a lot of technology, even in electrolyzing. There are several opportunities. What could be the technology of the future? So the knowledge is integrated by our network. And of course, we support the startups then to build up new competencies and build a business network and deal with it. And this is just a small glimpse. We are offering a bootcamp for very early stage founders and wannabe startups, future founders, starting the first bootcamp now in October. Very short, in 3 weeks, we prepare the startups to take the next steps. And for a little bit more advanced startups, we have the sprint. Second batch is starting in October 2, and it is really a very, very compressed 10-week sprint. It's not like spending months and months in an acceleration program, but it's very customized, it's very compact, it's very dense, and it's very intensive. And it's partially, and this is part of the success, I would say, we are doing not everything digital, which I think is really important. You can do a lot of things digital, you can achieve a lot of knowledge digitally, but working with a startup, especially with the startups who are dealing with a technology, a technique, a product, that is really important to do it live. And corporates, as I said, are also benefiting from our network because they get very early access to new ideas. They meet startups, they meet ideas they wouldn't find wherever, in the Financial Times or in Handelsblatt or someone. They meet people and startups and ideas very early. Maybe they find investment opportunities, maybe they find cooperation opportunities, and we have seen, although we are not yet a whole year in the world as a hub, we have seen that this is really working, that companies that are supporting our hub, working with our hub, get really interesting contacts to startups throughout Europe. I should say it's really not only Germany, it's throughout Europe, and therefore the corporates appreciate what we are doing. And it's the second part for the corporates is to exchange views on how are you doing this, because the open innovation idea is of course reaching the corporate world also. So corporates among themselves can exchange views. How are you dealing with this? How are you integrating startups in your company, in your processes? How are you working with them together? And of course, doing this, we can form a regional as well as a European network to do so. And we have some very great companies who are already supporting us formally and officially. And I was really glad to say that here at decarbXpo in Düsseldorf, the most of them are also here as an exhibitor, here as a partner. And some of them are on stage with me later to discuss how they work together with startups. So it's an impressive group of companies supporting us, and you can see it's not only one sector, it's not only energy, it's not only the classical, let me say, typical hydrogen companies, it's also small and medium-sized companies, it's also consulting companies, so we are proud to have these kind of partners. And of course the biggest partner, or one of the biggest partners, is the state government of North Rhine-Westphalia, putting faith in us and giving us subsidies for 5 years to ramp up this ecosystem, to build this ecosystem, not only for North Rhine-Westphalia, and I think this is kind of visionary, it's for Europe. Coming from North Rhine-Westphalia has many things, and it's for Europe, and we are really proud to be part of this family. So hydrogen is teamwork. One of our founding partners is here, and he created the slogan. So be part of the team as a startup, as a corporate, as a partner, be it from Europe, being from somewhere in the world, and join us in the Hydroverse. So this was my presentation of what we are doing, and now it's really about what the startups are doing.